Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Herod the Tetrarch heard about all that was happening, and he was greatly perplexed because some were saying, John has been raised from the dead. Others were saying, Elijah has appeared. Still others, one of the ancient prophets has arisen. But Herod said, John I beheaded. Who then is this about whom I hear such things? And he kept trying to see him. The Gospel of the Lord. The church gives us today two people who are trying to find Jesus. The first is Herod, the Tetrarch that we hear in the Gospel, and the second is Saint Padre Pio, the saint that we celebrate today. What do we know about Herod the Tetrarch? Well, we know he was an adulterer. We know he was a puppet of the Roman Empire. We know that some of his actions may have caused a war with the Arabs. And he had his daughter dance in front of strangers. It's not a very fatherly thing to do. A very terrible thing he did. He had John the Baptist beheaded. And he would also be one of the ones that would be part of the drama, the passion of Jesus' death. Jesus referred to Herod as a vixen. So calling someone a fox would have been bad enough. Jesus called him a vixen, which is a female fox. So we're not getting maybe the best picture of Herod. Yet the gospel says that he was trying to see Jesus. This very short gospel tells us he is perplexed, confused. People are trying to guess the identity of Jesus. One of the thoughts is maybe John the Baptist was raised from the dead. And so he's curious because he knows that he had John the Baptist killed. And the gospel says, and he kept trying to see him. I struggled with that last night, trying to really believe that, because Herod, in Jesus' time, that Palestine was divided into 4 quarters. Herod was in charge of one of the quarters. And if he wanted to see Jesus that badly, it seems like he could have. Eventually, he would. The night before the day of Jesus' death, the Pharisees and Sadducees, scribes, bring Jesus over to Herod. And maybe that could have been a moment for a conversion for Herod, but he wanted nothing to do with it. He sends him back to Pontius Pilate. Eventually, Herod was exiled to Spain. Now the church gives us another example. Padre Pio, born in 1887, died in 1968. And for our young people, that's not that long ago, because there are people here that were alive when Padre Pio was alive. Padre Pio had illnesses his whole life. He received the stigmata, the wounds of Jesus, And 6 weeks after that, he got the Spanish flu, the COVID of 100 years ago. Some of the monks got it as well and died. His parents got it. They were very sick. His sister got the Spanish flu. She died. His 4-year-old nephew got the Spanish flu. He died. There's a letter he writes to his parents. He was so ill, he couldn't go. Here he was a priest. He couldn't go celebrate the funeral of his sister and his nephew because he was sick as well. In Italy, he was in the time of Mussolini, the fascists, and then Hitler. And poor Padre Pio, who was very, very simple, minded his own business, was falsely accused and misunderstood that he was faking the stigmata, sexual misconduct, and fraud. He was cleared of all of those. And then another very difficult thing, he wasn't allowed for 10 years to celebrate a public mass. I mentioned all these things because many of these things could have discouraged Padre Pio, but in the midst of those sufferings and life not going how he wants it to go, he kept searching for Jesus. He kept looking for Jesus, and he kept finding him. Unlike Herod, he kept finding him even in the midst of his sufferings and struggles and crosses and difficulties. That's why I think he is one of the most amazing saints of the 20th century. I'd like to read you a short writing from one of his letters. It rends my heart to see so many poor blind souls who flee more quickly than they would from fire when they hear the Divine Master's most tender invitation. Let anyone who is thirsty come to me, and let the one who believes in me drink. I'll read it one more time. It rends my heart, it hurts him, to see so many poor blind souls who flee more quickly than they would from a fire when they hear the Divine Master's most tender invitation, let anyone who is thirsty come to me, and let the one who believes in me drink. The person he's writing to, he's telling them, don't be afraid of Jesus' invitation. Don't be afraid of Jesus calling you into relationship. Even if there's confusion, even if you have doubt, don't be afraid. Come to Jesus, come to the Holy Spirit, the living water. Padre Pio had many spiritual sons and daughters, and we can continue to be a spiritual son and daughter today, especially if any of us are having confusion or doubts or just having a hard time. Padre Pio is a great saint to go to. If you ask for his help and intercession, he will help you navigate any of those very difficult and challenging things in our life, always bringing us to Jesus, always bringing us to a deeper love of Jesus in the Eucharist. Let us ask for his intercession today as we continue Holy Mass, to ask for his intercession that we may come to desire in our hearts to seek Jesus the way that he sought Jesus, especially when we come to Holy Mass, especially Jesus in the most holy Eucharist.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruisti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit,